and welcome back to the CEO Mindset Podcast. Of course, I'm Andrea Patrick, your host, and as promised, today we're going to be talking about how to and what it means to develop an opportunity. Now, as you know, this is the last actual episode of the CEO Mindset Podcast season. Next week, we're just going to be doing a fun kind of recap, or really whatever my boat floats next week, whatever I come up with. But that will be the final episode of the season. Be sure to leave comments down below and tell me what you'd like to hear about, what types of topics you'd like me to talk about next year, and I will be sure to do so. Welcome back to the CEO Mindset Podcast. I'm Andrea Patrick, your host, and I'm so happy that you are joining me today. Subscribe if a CEO mindset is something you want to obtain and you want to find the intersection where your work and life coexist. The sky is the limit when you're clear about your value, consistent in the way you share said value, and you're upfront and honest about who you are while sharing it. There are so many examples to follow and learn from. Let's get into today's, shall we? So as we talk about developing these opportunities today, I am going to be putting on my makeup because I am also, I have on a little base, but filming 2 videos. So be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, because not only are you able to hear my podcast in audio form on your platform, but I also publish it on my YouTube channel as a video. And I do other videos on different topics on my YouTube channel weekly on Thursdays. And I'm about to start up my vlogs again. So be sure to watch the YouTube channel and have the notification bell clicked so that you will know when new videos are uploaded. But for today, I am going to put on my makeup and I am going to go through this idea of developing an opportunity with you. If you've been around for a minute, you also know that I am the trainer for my Master Networks group, and I had to talk about this topic on developing opportunities last month, I believe it was, or the month before, and I thought it would be a great idea to bring it to the podcast because it is such an important activity that you should be doing in your life and in your business and in your career, actually. So today I wanted to talk to you about what it is and how to do it. So it has been it's been a year since I transitioned. Let me get to put my makeup on because we could be here all day. It has been a year since I transitioned my business from being primarily a marketing, social media management, strategy development business to a more consulting corporate clients and creating strategies for my corporate clients and doing corporate training around the idea of authentic leadership and authentic marketing practices and strategies. So that said, it has been on my mind quite a bit this year. Ideas for how to develop opportunities, how to but to get clients and to start to build relationships so that I can get business. And I'm gonna tell you, when you get into different spaces like this, it can be quite difficult to develop those opportunities. When you are in new spaces, you have to, get to know people, build those relationships. It's not an overnight thing. It's really something that takes time, and it really does include the development. So I really think my experience this year is going to be quite helpful to you in the coming year to develop opportunities yourself. And I will go back to, if you've not seen my video on my 8-week reset, I really think it's a good idea for you to go and check that out, because I'm sharing with you a more in-depth experience for your personal mastery. And we talked about that at the top of the month. That was the first in this season finale series. We talked about personal mastery. So if you've not listened to that podcast episode or watched that podcast episode, please do that. And after you've done that, If you feel you need a little bit more, then my 8-week reset will be very helpful for you. So yeah, I've been thinking about developing opportunities for quite some time. And with such a major shift in my business strategy, I really have had to be more intentional in my lead generation and how I go about getting customers. And it's not an easy task when you go from working with small businesses to working with like more medium-sized businesses where there is a staff, where there's an actual need for training or systems development, or just more strategy so that they can be more efficient and effective in their business dealings. So today, that's what we're going to talk about, developing opportunities. But before we get into what it looks like to develop an opportunity, I think I should let you know what it actually means to develop an opportunity. You may not understand that terminology. You may be more familiar with lead generation, which is where you are doing various activities to bring leads in so that you can sell them on your services or your products. And yes, that is something that you do. You can use social media for lead generation. You can use events for lead generation. You can do cold calling for lead generation. But when it comes to developing opportunities, it takes a little bit more finesse, a little bit more intention, a little bit more skin in the game. So I'm going to read you my definition of what I believe developing an opportunity actually means, and then we'll go from there. We'll keep it trucking. So I wrote this down so that I could say it exactly how I was thinking it when I wrote it. So what I mean by developing an opportunity is using your strengths to recognize a need for your specific solution, then exposing your prospect, whoever you're talking to their need for your solution, and then positioning that solution, your solution, as the most optimal answer for that prospect. Okay, so that is what it means to develop an opportunity. And so now I want to go through sort of what I've learned, and I've developed opportunities for myself this entire year using this method. And I really do think that it could be quite helpful to you too if you just take the time to do it. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is not something that you'll be able to just listen to today and then be like, boom, if you have not done that personal mastery piece, and if you've not done what we talked about last week and developed that personal brand and that personal operating system. I do think it is imperative that you do these things, because oftentimes when we are developing opportunities, not oftentimes, every time, we have to do, there has to be social proof. You have to be able to relate to the person you're talking to or relate to their problem in some way, shape, or form. You may not have had the problem yourself, but because you're solving the problem, you do have a connection to it. And so therefore you should do your part in identifying how you relate to your customer base, so that in this developing opportunity, you can use that information to optimize that ability, right? So let's put on a little bit of blush. Let's talk about it. Now, the first thing that you need to do when you are developing an opportunity is build a relationship. Now, I don't mean you need to be best buddies. I don't mean you need to be going out, having drinks and like kicking back with each other. What I mean by relationship is you need to know the prospect well enough to inquire about what it is they might need, make conversation with them to determine if there's any synergy at all, if they need what you have, if you will be able to solve a problem that they have. You need to inquire in this conversation, ask questions, learn. This could be at a networking event. Let's use that as an example, where you're at your chamber meeting, or you're at your BNI meeting, or you're at your Master Networks meeting, and you meet someone and you hear their story when they do their 30-second pitch or whatever, and you're like, wow, I think that I could really help this person out. I think that I have a solution for their problem. Or it could be, oh wow, I think that what I have would be very helpful to their customer base. And so I want to sit down and talk to them about kind of how I feel like I can help them. That is what you do when you are building the relationship. That first thing is just inquiring. striking up a conversation, determining whether or not there's any synergy, either for you to solve a problem for them specifically, or to work with them and the audience that they serve to solve their audience's problem. Synergy. Next, when it comes to building a relationship, is the invitation. If you find that there is some level of synergy and you think that it is worth moving forward, worth really getting to know the person, finding out, more specifically how you can help them, how you can work with them, how you can, make money together, then yeah, there's an invitation. Invite them to lunch. Invite them for a one-on-one. Invite them to your event. Invite them to something where you can then continue the conversation. Continue to share with them your value in a very organic way. So you want to have the invitation. Then after so once you've seen the synergy and everything, you've established that synergy, you want to extend the invitation to do the one-on-one. And then next, in the one-on-one is when you start to identify. And you're going to identify common interests. You're going to identify any familiar challenges that you've heard before that maybe you can solve, or maybe you share this customer and you hear the same challenges from your customers as well. You want to make sure that you are identifying those familiar challenges. And then you want to start to listen for opportunities to either partner or to sell your services to them directly. This isn't an opportunity to sell. This is an opportunity to hear and identify if there is any opportunity for you to do business with this person, either as someone who's helping them directly or someone who's partnering with them to help another customer or the same customer base. Now, I hope that you have enjoyed this series so far, this season finale series where we've talked about personal mastery, personal branding, and now we're talking about using those things to develop an opportunity. And that is going to come in so handy next year as you build your business, build your career, or you just want to be an outstanding citizen in your community. This information that I'm sharing with you is so helpful either way. So if you have found the last 2 episodes of the podcast and this episode so far helpful, please hit that subscribe button on your podcast platform. Subscribe to this podcast so that you can come back to it. If there's any way to notify yourself when a new episode is published, then make sure that you do that as well. Remember that I do post this podcast on YouTube as a video as well, so you can always go over to my YouTube channel. I am in the process of trying to grow my YouTube channel. I need those watch hours. So if you do subscribe, please commit to at least playing the videos, listening to them as you do your work, drive around or whatever. Leave comments, share any information with your friends. But that's what I'll ask you to do. Just subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can continue these great podcast engagements. I want to continue to chat with you via podcast and video. And that needs to continue next year as well for our next season. All right, let's move on to the next thing that you need to do when you are developing an opportunity. Once you have established the need and you know that, wow, I think that I will be able to help this person, or I think that I will be able to work with them to help and serve the same group of people. Once you've established that to be the case, then you want to embrace storytelling. Okay, now that you've asked the questions, you've identified the needs, now it's time for you to start providing that social proof with storytelling. This isn't where you say, oh, well, I helped this person, or oh, I helped that person. This is where you organically tell your story. Explain to them how you became connected to whatever it is you're doing, why you have found some of the same things to be true in your business as they've found in their business. Connect on levels of experience, connect on levels of service, like who they're trying to help, what they're trying to help. But make sure that when you are telling these stories that they're very organic, number one, but two, they are leading the conversation or navigating the conversation to a point where you can really start to have their eyes open to the fact that you could potentially be a partner or someone who will work with their customer base as well, or that might be able to help them. You want to guide the conversation with the questions you ask, the stories you tell, the way you tell the stories, all of that. So you don't want to just share, you don't want to say things like, that's what needs to be done, or here's my idea. Instead of doing something like that, you want it to be in an organic way. You want to walk the prospect through a carefully constructed narrative that introduces your unique perspective on whatever it is you're trying to sell or whatever problem or solution you have. And then you want your prospect to see that you relate to their challenge or their audience's challenge, and that you understand the various barriers that they are facing, and you have a unique way to help them with the problem that they're facing, right? And so you want it to be a very organic storytelling narrative that hits all the points but doesn't sound salesy, that doesn't push or pressure someone to work with you. You want light bulbs to go off in their heads as you're having the conversation, which is why, just like any other story tale, any other fairy tale or anything, you have the, wow, the leading up, the intrigue, the interest to, oh, wow, the big crescendo where the thing happens that makes you want to continue watching the story to see what happens at the end. That's kind of the direction that you want to be in when you are developing your opportunity. So again, let's just kind of go over it. You want to build relationship by inquiring, by inviting, and then by identifying, and then you want to use storytelling to showcase how awesome you are and how you are the perfect person to help them with their problem or their customer base with their problems, to the point that they're maybe like, wow, like this person could be someone that could help. I was just thinking about that, because you've done your homework and you've known how to construct your narrative so that you can hit all the points that typically are made when someone is having the trouble that they're having, and you know that your solution is going to be the thing that helps them. So this is a little bit of work that you have to do on the front end in order to have this conversation and start this storytelling process. And then after you've done all of that, the next thing you do, once you have them on the hook and they're very interested and intrigued by the conversation and they're engaged and they're really like, the back and forth is great. They're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Or, oh yeah, that's happened to me. Or, you have kind of got them on the hook with your storytelling and your social proof. The next thing you want to do is then develop the opportunity. Well, how do you do that? Well, you want to create and share a wow impact. Okay, so you want to do something like, did you know? And then hit them with some spectacular information or some spectacular statement, right? That, is going to like open their mind to something, right? These wow actions position you as a unique resource. And they cause your listener to pay closer attention to what it is you're saying. So you want to have that did you know thing, that wow thing, that's going to prompt them. That's going to kind of start buttering them up to actually take you up on the offer when you say, whatever the opportunity is that you are developing. The next thing is you want to make them kind of question things. So you want to create those what if or, what else scenarios where you're going to give a scenario like, what if we did nothing? What would happen to your business then, right? Maybe you could ask the question like, what if you didn't allow me to help you? Like, what if you didn't have this solution? What if there was no way for you to get to that end that you're wanting to? What would you do then? Have them start to imagine the what ifs, Or you can say things like, well, what else could happen? Or what else would you like? If you could have anything you wanted, what else would it be? Start them thinking in the direction of your solution. These questions highlight a scenario that can be extremely powerful and interesting. And then if you do the what else question, you could do these what else questions are also powerful because it gives the listener an opportunity to feel like they are involved in the problem solving. And so these types of wow impacts are going to help you seal the deal because you've already, helped them. You've learned about what they need. You've determined that there was some synergy. You invited them to lunch for a one-on-one. During that conversation, you've been very, very relatable. You've, had your narrative down where you're guiding the conversation to the point where they're starting to see. I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but I've said it, when you think of a while ago, it was years ago, one of my clients gave me this analogy and I've used it ever since. And she was like, Andrea, you have the ability to say, I recognize that you have a mole, did you know you had a mole? And then they're like, yeah, I kind of know I did. Well, you want me to tell you how you got the mole? I would really love to know how I got the mole because I don't like it, And then here's how you got the mole. And then you say, would you be interested in me helping you get rid of the mole? And then of course they're going to say yes, because in the identifying the mole and wanting to know how they got the mole in the first place, they've already established that they don't like it. You already know. But you knew going in that you had a solution to getting rid of the mole, right? But you saved that till the end. So that's what I'm telling you to do. Identify a need and start that conversation. Invite them to a one-on-one. Then have that narrative. Do the whole, I saw that you had this thing. Did you know that this thing existed? You know how sometimes people get that? Let me tell you these stories about how I've run into this problem before. And I've been so successful in helping people solve it, or not even I've been successful with people solving it, just telling the story about how you recognize something and then, oh my gosh, this is what kind of went down. You had told them to do X, Y, and Z and then, wow, it went away and they were so excited and it was amazing to be a part of that and da-da-da-da-da-da. And did you know that this is the situation? Or what if I could do the same for you? Or what if you allowed yourself to continue down this road? Is it possible that could be your fate as well? Or what else could possibly happen? That is where you begin to develop the opportunity to the point that once they address that they recognize that they have the mole and that you've told them how they got the mole, they understand that you have your expertise, you know what you're talking about. You must be the person that they need to use to get rid of the mole because you've done all this back work. That is what it looks like to develop an opportunity. Okay, so that does it for those are the steps for developing an opportunity. So between seeking personal mastery, which we talked about during the first podcast episode of this series, developing a personal brand and knowing how to leverage that personal brand, and then developing opportunities today, which is what we talked about, you are super prepared for next year. Now, the only thing that I could think of that would help you out even more is to dive a little bit deeper into that personal mastery. And that is where I am going to guide you over to my video that I did on an 8-week reset. Now, you have less than 8 weeks, right, to reset, but that's okay because once you get started, you'll be on the right track. And given these last 2 podcast episodes, I think you'll still have everything you need in January to kick the year off, right? So I am going to leave the link to that 8-week reset down below. So make sure you watch that after you listen to this episode. And if you are watching this episode, then I will also have it linked down below in the video notes as well. All right, guys. This has been such an amazing year. This has been such an amazing season on the podcast. I started off telling you that this year is going to be about being your best, operating with excellence. And I wanted my family, my my African American family, my minority family members. I really wanted to show up for you guys because the state of the country right now is not necessarily favoring us. And we could be down and out and frustrated about lack of opportunity, about opportunities being taken away, and we could do that. We could wallow in that. But the truth of the matter is that we are awesome. We are amazing, and a lot of the things that we, as a country, as the world, have at our disposal come from our excellence. And if we would just stand on that, recognize that, and operate in that, there is nothing that could stand in our way of getting the success that we want. So I implore you to go back and listen to the episodes of this season if you haven't already, and find your excellence. Find your excellence and then start walking in that excellence. Be unapologetically you, and make sure that the you find in that personal mastery that we talked about is how you want to show up in the world, how you want people to see you. Don't let someone else tell you who you are and who you should be. Find that out for yourself and then own it. I promise you things will be like so amazing because you'll show up as your best all the time. You'll leave nothing on the table. All right, guys, let me go because I know I'm looking a little drab. I still have to put on my lipstick. I'm going to do that and start filming these other 2 videos. But for now, thank you so much for listening to the CEO Mindset Podcast. And just in case you've not heard it or haven't said it yet, the CEO Mindset Podcast is all about constantly evolving and being open to failing forward, because we know failing is our first attempt at learning. It's how we grow. It's how we learn what not to do the next time. All right, so keep that in mind. Subscribe to the podcast so that you are in the know when the new season starts. Go back and listen to this season and past seasons. Leave comments, share it with your friends. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell. Leave a comment. Let's engage. All right. See you back here for our final episode in our season finale series next week. Bye, guys. That does it for today's episode of the CEO Mindset Podcast. Remember, this is the place to be to find the intersection between your personal life and your business life so that they coexist. It's also where you learn how to consistently evolve and be open to the failures that happen, be open to the opportunities, be open to the opportunity for change. Make sure you are subscribed. Leave your comments below about today's episode if you have any questions, comments, concerns. I want to hear all about them, and I want to hear how you are using what you hear to grow your business, live the life you love, and have that quality of life that we are all looking to achieve. All right, guys, don't forget to follow me over on Instagram, AF Patrick. Definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, Andrea Patrick Official. All the links that you need to continue following and being a part of the Be You Boss Squad community is listed in the show notes, along with any other links that I think might be amazing for this particular podcast. Remember, we are on all the podcast platforms, so if you have not already, find us and subscribe. See you again next week.